All right. Today I'm talking about the question today of how real estate commissions work on a real estate transaction. So, a lot of people don't understand this, and I'm going to explain it to you. The commissions are always payable to the listing agent. When you sign a listing agreement with an agent, you are going to decide how much commission is going to be paid, right? So typical in our area now is around 4 or 5%. There are parts of the country where it's 6 or 7%. Those are usually lower priced areas. Our areas are a little, relative to most of the parts of the country, we are more money. So 4 or 5% is pretty standard. I'm not going to talk about my commissions, which are usually less than that, well, always less than that. But let's talk about what happens. So let's say you agree to pay listing agent 5%. Then what happens is, very often, not all the time, I would say it's between 60 and 70% of the time, the buyer is represented by their own agent. So let's talk about what happens there. A buyer wants to buy a property in a certain area, feels that they don't have the expertise or the knowledge to find it. They go and they engage an agent to find a house for them. And they say, we're looking for something in this area. We want a basement. We want a finished basement. We want at least 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And we want it in good condition, and we can pay $600,000. I'm just giving examples. So that agent then goes out and tries to find properties that are listed for sale, listed by a listing agent. So in the example we gave, the listing agent is getting 5%. Most of the time, there are small variations, but usually the buyer's agent is going to, if they bring the buyer to buy that property, they are going to keep that property. They're going to get half of the commission. So if it's 5% commission, usually the buyer's agent will split it and get 2.5%, and the listing agent will get 2.5%. In the event that the listing agent finds a buyer who does not have an agent, who is not represented, the listing agent will probably keep the whole 5%. That's how it usually works. Now, this is different everywhere. So I'm sure there are parts of New York State where people are going to take 6 or 7% every time, right? Because the average price there could be $100,000. But in our areas, it's very typical for you'll see your 4 or 5%, and you will see half of that go to a buyer's agent. Sometimes you will see buyer's agent commissions reduced, maybe 1.5%, where the listing agent wants to take more, and that is completely fine. Sometimes the buyer's agent will come and show up and say, I don't want to submit this offer unless you're going to pay me more. And it's up to the listing agent to say yes or no. But what's important here is if you're hiring an agent, every bit of this is negotiable. So if a listing agent says, hey, I can't do a listing, my broker, this is a standard bullshit line, my broker won't allow me to do a listing for less than 5%, something like that. You should say thank you very much, tell them to leave, and never use them again. If you are using somebody who's going to pull the my broker won't let me BS, you should absolutely not use them. You want to use somebody who's authority to say, you know what, I'm going to try, I think we can get it done, right? I'm sure my broker will agree. So I'm not just a realtor, I'm also a real estate broker, and my agents can charge whatever they want. I don't care what they charge. So it's absurd. Also, a big factor when you're signing a listing agreement is how long the listing agreement is going to be for. Most of the major agencies, I'm not going to name them, but you know their names, are going to ask you to list for a year. To me, that's absurd, an absurdly long amount of time, and you can absolutely negotiate with them how long the listing agreement's for. Just as a shameless plug for myself, I never charge more than 3.5% commission, and I never take listings more than 90 days, usually 60 days. But you've got to understand that when you go to an agent, and I've done videos before about explaining why you should never use an agent that you're related to or that you're friends with, because you're always going to get screwed. You're going to trust them. You're not going to ask them questions like how long is it for, or how much are you going to charge, or they're going to come up with, well, I have to take it for a year. Don't worry about it. I'll let you out anytime. Or I can't charge less than 5%. My broker won't let me. And then you should never, ever, ever use somebody that you have a relationship before. Because here's the truth. Here's the sad truth that people don't talk about. Most realtors are really, really bad at what they do. Most realtors do 1 or less than 1 deal a year. I think the average amount of deals that realtors do is like 1.3. And you've got to understand, there's so many people who do no deals a year that it's amazing. And there are some realtors who do a lot. So you need to be on top of the fact that you're probably speaking to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. if they're your friend, they're going to tell you things that may or may not be true, and you're just going to agree. So never hire someone that you're too close with to let go. Because if they're bad, and if you feel they're not doing a good job, and I honestly have half a dozen conversations with people whose realtors are doing a bad job every week, you're going to feel bad telling your friend, hey, we need to terminate this agreement. Another thing you should know is don't ever get a withdrawal of your agreement. Get a what's it called? A release, which means you're not responsible to pay them commission in any way, shape, or form. So it's very important that you understand the realtor is going to charge you X, and if there's a buyer's agent, they're going to get usually half of X. Now, what I do, and what most people don't do, is that if I take a listing agreement, I have two different prices, right? I'll charge you, let's say, 3.5% commission, but in the event that the buyer is not represented, I'm going to charge you much less, right? So you can ask every realtor to do that, but I promise you're going to hear many times, sorry, ambulance coming by, my broker won't let me. And those are key words for you to listen for, and to immediately say, okay, I'm going to think about it, and then never call them back. Or actually tell them, you know what, I don't think we're a good fit. That's more honest. Because if they're telling you something the broker won't let me, then these are people who really are in a situation either they're lying, right, which is one possibility, or they're just people who have no clout whatsoever. Any decent agent can charge whatever the hell they want. And everything should be negotiable. And their standard defense against negotiating down their commission is my broker won't let me. Now, if they start selling you on why their services are worth more, you can listen to it, whatever, you can do whatever you want. But you've got to understand most realtors, there are exceptions for sure. Most realtors are not going to do anything other than stick your listing on the MLS. And some won't even bother to take decent pictures. Some won't even bother to put in the description. Someone just called me about a listing they had. I looked at the listing. I go, this is the worst listing I've ever seen. Listing was in, I forgot where, maybe Rocky Point. The description simply said, amazing house for sale in Rocky Point. That was it. No pictures of the inside. None. Now, let me tell you something. If I see a listing with no pictures of the inside, I'm going to assume it's a horrible inside, right? So these are the kinds of things that using your cousin or using your friend's mother lead to crappy service, and you're stuck in a position where you don't feel comfortable telling them we got to end this right here and now, early. So it's important to know that there are good agents out there. There are agents who do a lot of business who are jerks that you may or may not want to work with. There are agents who are very nice who really don't know what the hell they're doing. And every single thing is negotiable. So you should be very, 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 very weary of any agent that tells you, I'm sorry, my broker won't let me do that. Or an agent who tells you, when you ask them what they're going to do, they tell you, I'm going to put it out on 2,000 websites, 400 websites, whatever it is. All that means is they're putting it on MLS, and all of those websites just pull off of MLS. So I just explained the way the commissions work. You should be weary in our area of paying more than 4% commission. I personally don't think anybody should pay 4% commission, but you shouldn't go higher than that unless your asking price is like $100,000 or less, or $200,000 or less, which is very rare. So I would, I think I just missed that turn. Center. I'm going to turn the next one. So that's how real estate commissions work. Real estate commissions work that the listing agent has the agreement, and they are going to agree to give the buyer's agent a percentage of it. A lot of people don't understand that. They don't get it. And they don't understand that if there's no buyer's agent, that the listing agent has just hit the lotto and is now going to make twice what they were going to make. And if you're not adept to that, you can always ask, hey, what happens if there's no buyer's agent? Can you reduce your commission? If they say no, I got to tell you, you should probably walk away. They're going to tell you some reason why it makes sense. I have never found a good defense for that. Right? You're willing to make 2% if there was a buyer's agent. Will you take 3% if there's no buyer's agent? And sometimes they will say, well, my broker won't let me, or some kind of standard BS. So be very wary of agents that pull the lines that I just told you. In general, I think you're better off using someone who and it's not so easy to find the people that are good. When I first started this business I'm talking about back in 2011, I saw one agent in an area that I was buying that was on all the signs. And I said, I'm almost going to die here. I said that she must be busy. And I gave her some listings on deals that I was selling or I was using her to buy also. And then I quickly realized in about 6 months that those are all the listings she has, and she does not do a lot of business, and she was not good. So it's hard to realize. It's something where if you have access to the MLS, or someone who has access to MLS, they're probably an agent, and they're going to wonder why you're not using them. But you can check market share, and you can see how much business somebody does. If somebody does a lot of business, that is a good sign. It doesn't mean they're nice. It doesn't mean they're communicative. It doesn't mean much. It just means that they probably know the area pretty well, and that's it. So I hope this was helpful. And if you have any issues selling a house, please feel free to call me. My number is on the show notes. Thank you very, very much for watching. And I thought this was over, and I'm still here.